All right, let's shift gears to the Redlegs.
That's a good idea.
They have won one game on this road trip. And look, they knew they were going to have their hands full. Philadelphia is not anywhere close to being at full strength with Harper out. Hoskins is out for the year. Their bullpen's a disaster, almost as bad as a Reds bullpen to start the year anyway. But they lose 2 out of 3 there. They go to Atlanta. They've been right there. Can you take something positive away from the fact that, offensively speaking, this team is competing, and I'll be the first to say, and I know it's a small sample size, it's 10 games, whatever it is, but I did not think that they would be scoring and hitting the way they have hit so far this year. But can you take solace out of the fact that they're at least competing?
Well, I think scoring is a stretch. They've scored 20 runs in 5 games on this road trip, and 11 of those 20 runs have come from the 7th inning on. I think this is a fun team to watch. That is the lineup that they put on the field on a nightly basis. I enjoy watching these kids play because they really play hard, but their deficiencies are so glaring that they can take optimism or exude optimism. And I noted the comments that were in the Cincinnati Enquirer this morning about, even though they've lost 4 or 5 on the road trip, they can take something from the fact that they battle their butts off, and they've been in games right up until almost the end, with one exception. And that's all well and good, but the bottom line is wins and losses.
Yeah.
And unless they figure out a way to improve that bullpen, and I don't know that there is a way, unless Lucas Sims comes back and pitches sensationally, and sometime down the road they're going to get Luke Weaver back soon. It'll be interesting to see I got a feeling that Weaver may go into the rotation and Luis Cessa will go to the bullpen. That's what I'm thinking. They're hurting. I mean, they've been in games, but they've lost. Like night before last, they get the lead in the 10th inning, and bingo, first pitch home run by Sean Murphy in the bottom of the 10th, and the Braves win by 1. And then last night, that's got to wear on a team, even though they've only played 10 games. And I know it wore on the team last year. The other part that I predicted this was going to happen, and again, it's a sample size. Connor Overton and Luis Cessa have not gotten the job done in the 4 and 5 spot. And what compounds that problem, I got news for you. Hunter Green has been nothing to write home about.
No doubt about it. I said that a little while ago. He's made 2 starts, and they are below average starts.
Unbelievable. And when you got to go get a guy after 4 1/3 innings in which he's thrown 93 pitches, he's not helping your club. And I don't give a damn how hard he throws. I'm sick to death about hearing guys that throw 100 miles an hour. There's 3,000 pitchers in the big leagues that throw 100 or close to it. So that's no big deal, I don't think. Give me the guy that throws it, that's successful throwing 92 and 93 and moves the ball around and changes speeds and knows how to get big league hitters out. They're the guys that are impressive in this era of Major League Baseball. But getting back to Hunter Green, he's got to start living up to his hype. And if he doesn't, then that means you got to rely solely on Nick Lodolo and Graham Ashcraft, who both have been outstanding. I mean, you can't ask for any more from those 2 guys. But if you believe that the game is about pitching, and you start with pitching and go from there, then they better figure out a way to improve things, or we're going to see a whole lot more of what we've already seen.
Here's a thing that I've never understood, and maybe you have an understanding of it, okay? We all agree Derek Johnson is an outstanding pitching coach, both from the mechanics of it to the mental part of it to preparation, all that kind of thing. Strategically, how to attack a lineup, individual hitters, blah, blah, blah. But the thing I've just never understood is, and this is about Hunter Green, we know he throws a fastball, we know he throws a slider. But all the talk in spring training and even going back to last year was him starting to throw his changeup more. I could be imprecise on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. His first start of the year on opening day, he did not throw 1 changeup. In his second start of the year, he threw exactly 1 changeup. So I just have a hard time understanding what happens because you know that Derek Johnson is saying to him when they're meeting, hey, man, you got to start throwing that changeup. That could be a good pitch for you, an important pitch for you. But then you never use it.
Well, I think he may not use it because he may not have confidence in it enough to throw. And that's a personal thing that obviously if what we're talking about is accurate, and I think it is, because we did hear a lot about a changeup. And I think back to a chance meeting in New York back in the 80s between Joe Nuxhall and Nolan Ryan. And Ryan asked Joe about Mario Soto's changeup, the circle change, and how he threw it. We're having breakfast with Ryan in the Hilton Hotel coffee shop in New York City, and they're playing the Yankees and the Reds are playing the Mets. And Joe showed him how to throw that pitch, and he went home and he perfected it. And they tell me that the circle change is the easiest changeup there is to throw, and throw well once you work on it long enough, and it doesn't take all that long. Once he added that pitch to his arsenal, all of a sudden things change. And I think you can apply the same thing to Hunter Green. We know how hard he throws. We know he's got a good slider. Let him add to that and use it. Obviously, we have to think he's added to the fastball and the slider now, but if he's not using it, he might as well not even have it. I think that certainly time is going to come when they've got to sit down with him and said, son, you've got to throw this pitch. Otherwise, you're going to struggle like the Dickens. I still wonder whether or not it's not in his mind, meaning Green's mind. I still want to strike out everybody because I know that everybody's looking for me to throw 103 miles an hour. And I want to impress people by by striking out people. Well, we know the old adage in baseball, it takes a minimum of 3 to get a strikeout. It takes 1 pitch to make a pitch and get a guy on the first or second pitch to hit a ground ball on the infield or pop it up and hit a routine fly ball to left. I don't know whether this is a problem for him to get over the strikeout thing. But the fact of the matter is something has to change. And again, you do it and I do it, and we're both right. It's a small sample size. So we're not going off the deep end. All we know is that among the big 3, he has been so-called the weak link. And that has to change in order for this. But still, if that changes, then the big 3 are intact. That doesn't answer rotation pitchers 4 and 5.
We were talking about this topic yesterday. And by the way, Hunter Green will get his 3rd start of the year tonight in Atlanta.
Right.
Look, they weren't going to spend any money. They made that very, very clear, they being ownership in the Reds. They've patched together with, 30-something-year-old guys, journeyman guys that are down there in that bullpen, and that's a decision they made, and okay. So here we are 10 games into the year. You start getting into the conversation about, okay, when do you start that clock, all those sorts of things with young pitchers. I just wonder, do you think they would you consider, more accurately, bringing up young guys from the minor leagues? I mean, they can get lit up just as easily as old guys, and there's a good chance that they might be a little bit better because their stuff is a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it's too early to do that. And the other part of that is, and this is not anything that I preach. I think that oftentimes this is a fallback by Major League Baseball front offices when the subject of a young, promising pitcher comes up who's in your system and somebody says, well, why don't you give him a shot? Oh, we can't do that because if we bring him up now and he gets beat up, it may affect him for all time. That's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard.
Yeah.
If you got a kid that has a big reputation and he has pitched reasonably well in your system, if you bring him up and he gets lit up in 2 or 3 starts, I can't believe for 1 second that it's going to mess his career up for all time. He goes back to the minor leagues. He's better equipped to know what he needs to improve upon to get back to the big leagues and be successful. So anytime I hear a general manager or somebody on the club, we don't want to do anything, his psyche, we can't afford him come up when we're not sure that he's ready yet. I don't think I think you're pushing the panic button too early by bringing kids up. I think you owe the guys that you have right now, for better or for worse, a reasonable opportunity to go out and I'm talking now about, you're not going. I don't think you're going to send the Greens down. If that comes about, then they're really hurt.
Yeah.
But guys like, including Green and Overton and Sessa, whoever it might be, you got to give them an ample opportunity to go out and show that what has happened so far was simply a bad start. And maybe that's exactly what it is. And they get their act together and they go out and they pitch well. I don't think you can pull the trigger yet because you're really pushing the panic button if you just start to talk now about bringing kids up out of your system and give them a chance to pitch in the big leagues right now.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Let's apply the same thing to position players, okay? Steer has looked solid. Friedel is off to a good start, okay? But two guys, Friedel's off to an excellent start. Okay. You got two guys, though, that are young players. A lot of people, let's start with Barrero. Okay, now everybody said good glove, can't hit. Okay, well, they might be right, but it wasn't a lot of time last year. His first taste of the big leagues, young guy, talented guy. He's not off to a great start, but he's had his moments, including a 3-run home run in the game last night. You got Joey Votto singing the praises of Matt McClain, shortstop down at AAA Louisville, right? How long do you go with Barrero to give him a chance? Because a lot of people say until you give a guy, 900, 1,000 at-bats in the big leagues, now you can maybe start to make some decisions on where you think he is as an offensive player. Barrero's nowhere close to that number.
Well, you have to realize we're talking about a ball club that hung on to a guy for upwards of 3 years who had one good month in the big leagues, and that's Aristides Aquino. I've never seen a player get more out of next to nothing than one incredible month in which he hit, 12 home runs, 13, whatever it was, and they hung on and hung on and hung on. Now, maybe they out of necessity because they didn't have anybody else that they could bring up there, but we saw Matt McClain in spring training. He was a kid that hit the home run in the first game of the spring to win a game and was impressive throughout the spring. And he's a high draft pick. I don't know. I don't know how long you hang on to a guy like Barrero. He's only hitting now about 220 or 225, something like that, I think. And so I think they're going to continue to look at him because that's their mode of operation. We're going to look at him and look at him and look at him until he passes out from exhaustion or ineptitude, or all of a sudden he breaks out of it and becomes a player that you think he should be performing the level he should be performing at. But I don't think they have any thought of all right now of doing anything with Barrero. For my money, Kevin Newman played pretty well when he had the chance to play. I don't know. They are a very patient team. Whether or not the patience evolves out of necessity or it's just the way they're going to operate. I would have gotten rid of Aristides Aquino a year and a half ago. And the sweetest kid that ever lived. But at the same time, if you're not carrying your weight for a club that barely needs some production, then you have to look elsewhere. And they finally did that. But how long they'll hang on to Barrero is anybody's guess.
Well, the other guy that, look, and I said this on the show, and it's not disparaging the kid in any form or fashion. I don't know him, and by all accounts, they say he is an incredible kid, great kid. Talking about Benson, okay? Now, I also know that the Cleveland Guardians are very tight with spending money, and they are not in the business on a regular basis of trading away first-round draft picks, especially a guy gifted with this straight physical ability that Benson has. Big, strong, good-looking athlete, can run, defend, blah, blah, blah. So I wasn't buying it when all of a sudden everybody's writing ad nauseum about how great he looks in spring training. But again, you do have to give the kid a chance, but my Lord, he's striking out virtually every single at-bat so far.
Yeah, he looks completely overmatched. Opening day struck out 4 times. I wonder. You mentioned earlier about the pitching or players and how they sign guys to minor league contracts with an opportunity to make the big league ball club. Most of those guys don't pan out because they've been to 2, 3, or 4 different organizations. They're 26, 27, 28 years old, and they haven't made it in the big leagues. Well, there's a reason why they haven't made it in the big leagues, because they're not good enough to play at the highest level of baseball that there is. I guess the Reds do it out of necessity because they can't spend the money that it would require them to do if they went out and got established players, whether it be position players or pitchers. But we've seen precious little from Will Benson to make us think that this guy is going to be a productive major league player. But again, they're going to give him a long look. And you have to never forget, Tom, the other part of it is, and I know you know this, when they meaning the baseball powers that be with this club or any other club, decide to sign a player or decide to go out and get a guy, which they did in the trade for Will Benson from Cleveland, they're not going to pull the plug on him quick, because that then reflects upon you and your ability to determine whether a guy can play or not. So you're going to bend over backwards to give that player or players enough time to say, yes, he can, or no, he can't. But if you do it quick, and you do it quick enough times, then the people that sign your paycheck are going to say, well, wait a minute now. You don't have a very good track record of bringing players into this organization who you think can play, and in reality, they can't. So it must start with you. So I think a lot of times this patience evolves out of the fact that we can't reflect upon ourselves. We've got to give this guy every chance and hope like hell that he can be the player we thought he was going to be when we made the deal for him.
All right, well, David Bell continues to say after the game, and he did again last night, that he's very encouraged about the way the team is playing and fighting and continuing to compete. So we'll see how it plays out. Final game in Atlanta, then right back on the home front. You're down there in North Carolina, your palatial estate, and you stopped in Chapel Hill yesterday. Did you rub elbows with Roy Williams, or any advice for Hubert Davis? Caleb Love, did you catch him packing his bags and heading to Michigan, anything like that?
No, I did not. We just parked the car off of Franklin Street and went around the corner and had lunch at Sutton's Drug Store, which is one of the iconic places in downtown Chapel Hill. Been there as long as I've been around. Was there when I went to school there, and just browsed and went into some stores and then jumped in the car and drove the hour and 40 minutes to get to Salisbury again. But it's like Anna and I talked yesterday. It's the epitome of what a college town should be like. And I speak with great prejudice because it's a wonderful campus, and there's so many places that are still there when I went to school there, and we're talking about back in the early 60s. But I didn't see Roy, or I didn't see Hubert, didn't comment about Caleb Love going to Michigan. They already say he's going to be the best guard in the Big Ten. It was just a nice visit to Chapel Hill, and it's something that we will probably do more and more of. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it ain't the Ohio University. I can tell you that right now.
Oh,
in terms
please,
of sheer beauty, brother. All the rolling hills, Hocking Hills. I mean, the best. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your time in North Carolina. We will see you at lacrosse Monday night. Safe travels back.
I look forward to it. Look forward to it, boys. Have a good week.
All right. See you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty. All right, boys. Thank you, Marty.
Take care.
Thank you, Marty. That's
all right, guys.
Thank
take
you, Marty.
care.
All right.
See ya.
All right. I'll talk to you. Have a good day. Thanks for the time.
Okay.